Archaeologists found soil in the Amazon still producing abundant harvests 2,000 years after humans last farmed it. They called it terra preta, dark earth. Biochar, charcoal made from organic material and buried in soil, is what made this possible. For $6 in wood and one afternoon, you can produce this material and feed your soil for the next 1,000 years. This is the ancient carbon chemistry that modern science has fully verified. To understand why this is unusual, we have to look at the baseline of the region. Tropical soils are naturally thin and heavily leached of nutrients by constant rain. Finding patches of extraordinarily dark, ultra-fertile earth here defies the expected geology of the basin. Carbon dating confirms these patches were engineered by pre-Columbian indigenous populations between 500 BC and 1500 AD. The physical evidence shows they intentionally built these fertile zones over generations. When scientists analyzed the composition of this dark earth, they isolated the active variable. It contains massive volumes of fractured charcoal, carefully blended with organic waste and bone. Terra preta is the most chemically persistent engineered soil on record. It has outlasted the civilizations that created it by millennia, maintaining its fertility centuries after its creators disappeared. The charcoal in this soil was created through pyrolysis. This is a thermal process where organic material is heated between 300 and 700 degrees Celsius in a low oxygen environment. A standard aerobic fire uses oxygen to reduce carbon completely to ash. Pyrolysis prevents complete combustion, leaving behind a rigid, intact carbon skeleton. A gram of biochar holds 300 square meters of internal surface area, providing habitat for billions of microorganisms. Bacteria and fungi migrate into these chambers. It also has a high cation exchange capacity, trapping positively charged nutrients and water, preventing them washing away. This means biochar does not fertilize plants directly. It is permanent physical infrastructure that houses and protects the biology that feeds the crops. Replicating those low oxygen conditions at home requires the cone pit, the most efficient zero-tool method for small-scale production. You dig a cone-shaped hole approximately 60 centimeters deep and 60 centimeters wide at the top. Once you establish a small fire at the bottom, you continuously feed dry woody material in from the top. The shape of the cone dictates the thermodynamics. It creates a thermal updraft that starves the lower layers of oxygen, triggering pyrolysis in the accumulating wood rather than full combustion. When the pit is full of glowing charcoal, you must completely quench it with water. This is a critical safety step, as smoldering biochar produces toxic carbon monoxide. This simple pit design replicates the precise thermal window required to forge a carbon matrix that persists in the soil for 1,000 years. The primary reason biochar applications fail is adding raw, uncharged charcoal directly to an active growing bed. Because raw biochar's pores are empty, it acts as a chemical vacuum. It absorbs ambient nitrogen from the surrounding soil, initiating a nutrient lockout that starves adjacent plant roots. To prevent this, you must activate the biochar. This means preloading the pore structure with nutrients before it ever touches your soil. The standard volumetric recipe is to mix 1 part raw biochar with 1 part finished compost. You keep this mixture moist for 2 to 4 weeks. Alternatively, you can soak the raw biochar in high nitrogen liquids, like compost tea or diluted urine, for 48 hours to force rapid nutrient saturation. Activation shifts biochar from a nutrient sponge into a preloaded, slow-release biological battery ready to sustain root systems. Application requires specific parameters. Research from Cornell University recommends applying biochar at 5 to 10% by volume for most garden and potting soils. In practical terms, that means mixing 1 to 2 inches of biochar into the top 8 to 12 inches of your topsoil. Getting this initial volume correct is critical because biochar does not break down. This is a one-time structural baseline shift, not a seasonal amendment. This chart shows how biochar affects local soil chemistry. Depending on the production temperature, biochar typically raises the pH by 0.5 to 2 whole units. This alkalizing effect means biochar should not be used with acid-loving plants like blueberries. You should always test your soil's pH before applying any volume of char. Adding biochar is an act of permanent soil engineering. It requires exact calculation and testing rather than estimation. The base material you burn, or feedstock, dictates the chemical output. Hardwoods yield maximum internal surface area,
while manure yields higher initial nutrients but lower long-term carbon stability. Whatever feedstock you select, it must be completely dry before firing. Excess moisture causes heavy smoke and degrades the structural quality of the char. You must exclude treated woods, plastics, and wet food waste. These materials introduce toxicity to the soil or ruin the pyrolysis process entirely. The structural benefits of biochar are most evident in arid environments. Trials in the UK tested its effectiveness on severely degraded, fast-draining, sandy soils prone to drought. This chart visualizes the resulting data. An untreated sandy soil drained completely in 2 to 4 hours. That exact same soil, amended with 10% biochar, retained water for 18 to 36 hours. Biochar mathematically increases the water retention capacity of a soil profile by 18 to 25. Commercial activated biochar retails for between $1 and $3 per liter. By utilizing yard waste, homemade hardwood char costs $0 in raw materials. When activated correctly, homemade hardwood biochar is functionally identical to the commercial products sold in garden centers. Beyond your garden, this process alters the atmospheric carbon cycle. Normal decomposition, or open-air burning, returns a tree's stored carbon directly to the atmosphere as CO2. This diagram shows how pyrolysis interrupts that cycle. The process locks approximately 50% of the original carbon mass out of the atmosphere, securing it in a stable soil vault for up to a millennium. The numbers scale rapidly. 1 ton of biochar sequesters roughly 2.5 to 3 tons of CO2 equivalent, a metric now recognized by commercial carbon credit economies. This makes biochar a dual-action mechanism. You are building localized, generational soil wealth while reducing global atmospheric carbon loads. Biochar also acts as a biological multiplier when combined with other natural soil amendments. Mixing it with comfrey tea triples the nutrient release window of a single application. Adding worm castings accelerates pore colonization, introducing the microbial diversity needed to charge the char. This amplified biology translates into distinct harvest metrics. In U.S. trials, corn amended with biochar showed a 10 to 50% yield increase, while tomatoes displayed improved water stress tolerance. However, you must account for specific crop preferences. Potatoes require acidic conditions to thrive, and they may suffer yield drops if biochar raises the soil pH beyond their preferred range. Biochar does not replace fertilizers or compost. It acts as an amplifier, increasing the efficiency of every biological input you add to the system moving forward. To validate this protocol, researchers at Cornell and Bayreuth universities conducted modern experiments aiming to recreate terra preta conditions in heavily degraded tropical soils. Their methodology matched the archaeological data. They applied exactly 5 to 10% biochar by volume and tracked the soil's biometrics over 4 consecutive growing seasons. This chart illustrates the results. Soil carbon content increased up to 400%, microbial biomass expanded by 300%, and total crop yields increased by up to 880%. These yield spikes follow a critical baseline rule. The positive effect of biochar is directly proportional to how severely depleted the original soil was. Modern agronomy has successfully reverse-engineered the Amazonian anomaly. We now have an exact, scalable method to resurrect dead soil anywhere on the planet. Here is the 15-day action plan. Day 1. Dig your 60-centimeter pit. Burn dry, woody waste in low oxygen conditions for 2 to 4 hours and quench it completely with water. Day 2. Crush the resulting matrix into fragments smaller than 1 centimeter and mix it 1-to-1 by volume with finished compost. Days 3 through 14 are the non-negotiable activation window. Keep the matrix moist while ambient microbes colonize the pores. Day 15, execute the structural shift. Till exactly 1 inch of your activated char into the top 10 inches of your soil, testing the pH both before and after application. Ancient Amazonians created soil so fertile it still grows food 2,000 years later. Unearth the History brings you the $6 biochar technique that feeds your soil for the next 1,000 years. Make your first batch, charge your first bed, and subscribe to keep the verified soil science growing. The carbon matrix you install this weekend will remain in the ground.
actively processing nutrients long after you are gone.